Do you know who dismissed Sachin Tendulkar the most times in his career? Let me give you two hints. Number 1, he is from Jamaica. Number 2, he is not a bowler. Confused already, right? Because the story itself is just as surprising. Alright, here is one more hint. Indian players often refer to him as the silent assassin. Now if you are a 90s kid, you probably already know who I am talking about. Yes, I'm referring to one of the most controversial umpires in cricket history, a man named Stephen Anthony Bucknor, famous as Steve Bucknor. This is the same man who, during the 2008 Sydney Test, delivered 8 incorrect decisions, and shockingly, every single one of those decisions went against India. That's right, all 8. Eventually, the situation escalated to such an extent that the BCCI formally approached the ICC, and as a result, Steve Bucknor was removed from umpiring in the third test match in Perth. Luckily, Virat Kohli had not made his test debut back then, because if he had, Ben Stokes would have been remembered a lot more in that match. Many former greats of the game even believe that Steve Bucknor had taken a personal contract to bring down Sachin Tendulkar's test batting average below 60, and sadly, he succeeded in doing exactly that. In cricket, you have often heard about premeditated shots, but Steve Bucknor took things to a completely different level. He practiced premeditated umpiring. Whenever India were batting, the rule seemed simple. Any appeal, no matter how weak, had to result in an out decision. And whenever India was bowling, no matter how strong the appeal was, there would be absolute silence. No movement, no doubt, no fingers raised. In today's video, we are going to talk about 5 worst decisions ever given by Steve Bucknor. According to me, the most shocking and unfair dismissal is number 3. But I'll leave that judgment up to you. Watch all of them carefully and then decide for yourself. Number 5. Back in 2006, the third and final test match was being played between South Africa versus Australia. By that point, South African batter Ashwell Prince had already completed his century, and the Kangaroos were desperately searching for a wicket. And that's when Shane Warne delivered a ball that pitched well outside the line, close to the wide guideline, and the ball did turn slightly back in. But even then, it was miles away from the stumps, nowhere close to hitting them. Despite that, the Australian players went up with a huge appeal, and then, without hesitation, Steve Bucknor raised his finger. That single wrong decision proved to be catastrophic. South Africa went on to lose the game, and the impact of that moment was impossible to ignore. Steve Bucknor's decisions were so decisive that on many occasions, victory and defeat were determined purely by his finger. Number 4. This incident goes back to year 2000 when England were touring Pakistan, and the second test match was in progress. Pakistan's spin legend Saqlain Mushtaq was bowling, and facing him was the England captain Nasir Hussain. Saqlain delivered a ball that skidded and stayed low, but despite that, the ball struck Nasir Hussain's bat right in the middle, and the Pakistani team immediately went up with a confident appeal, and the Steve Bucknor raised his finger. Honestly, even a small child watching that replay would say that the ball hit the middle of the bat. But Steve Bucknor, for reasons no one could understand, paused for a moment, thought about something, and then still gave it out. What makes this even more surprising is that batsmen of that era were extremely calm and disciplined. They rarely argued, rarely protested. They would simply show a slightly shocked expression, turn around, and quietly walk back to the pavilion. And Steve Bucknor took full advantage of that silence. Number 3. The lowest point of Steve Bucknor's umpiring career came during the 2003 Brisbane Test, when the Indian team was touring Australia. Anyone who actually watched that match, and if you ask them even today, they will tell you the same thing. They have rarely seen a worse decision in their entire life than the one that sent Sachin Tendulkar back to the pavilion. The pitch had uneven and unpredictable bounce. A delivery from Jason Gillespie struck Sachin above the knee, and the point of impact was clearly outside the line. In any normal situation, that should have been an end of the discussion. But Steve Bucknor, staying true to his familiar style, took a few extra seconds, paused, and then raised his finger. Sachin stood there in complete disbelief. You could see the shock on his face, not anger, not protest, just pure disbelief. Years later, Steve Bucknor himself admitted with the regret that some of his decisions were extremely poor, but as the saying goes, what's the point of regret once the damage is already done? Number 2. Rahul Dravid, famously known as the Wall, was the kind of player who, if he managed to survive the first 15 minutes at the crease, getting him out became almost impossible for any bowler. During the second test match of 2008, Steve Bucknor gave several questionable decisions, and Rahul Dravid's wicket was one of them. In the fourth innings of that second test, after Wasim Jafar was dismissed early, Rahul Dravid and VVS Lakshman were carefully rebuilding the inning, moving forward slowly, session by session. That's when Andrew Symonds bowled a straight delivery that lightly brushed Dravid's pad and then carried straight into the gloves of Adam Gilchrist. Gilchrist knew it very well. There was absolutely no contact between bat and the ball, not even close. Still, the Australian players went up with a loud and confident appeal, and once again, Steve Bucknor raised his finger, declaring Rahul Dravid out. So strong was the frustration around such decisions that many people believe the decision review system DRS was eventually introduced largely because of repeated wrong calls by umpires like Steve Bucknor. Number 1. This incident took place in 2008 during the second test match at Sydney Cricket Ground. At that moment, Andrew Symonds was batting on 16 runs and the bowler running in was Ishant Sharma. Ishant bowled a good length delivery that clearly took a thick outside edge of Symonds' bat and went straight into the gloves of MS Dhoni. The entire fielding side erupted, players started celebrating, appeals went up instantly, everything pointed towards an obvious wicket, but Steve Bucknor did not move an inch. No reaction, no raised fingers. Symonds went on to play one of the most decisive innings of his career, finished unbeaten on 162 runs. And in the end, India lost the match by 122 runs. This was very same test match in which the umpire gave 8 incorrect decisions, and shortly after this controversy, Steve Bucknor was removed from umpiring duties for the next match. That's all for the today guys. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Let's meet in the next video.